The Grand Prix de Monaco for Formula One in 2022 had an extremely high level of excitement. The beginning of the race began 1 hour later than scheduled as a result of the torrential rain and electrical failure that occurred in the paddock. Charles Leclerc, a local, was in the lead, with his teammate close behind. Considering how difficult it is to maneuver through the streets of the Principality, a Ferrari 1-2 was a strong possibility. The car started on full wet tires behind a safety car. However, as the weather started to get more unpredictable, some drivers took a chance and switched to intermediate tires. Charles Leclerc, a deeply frustrated Ferrari Formula One driver, blasted his team for extremely poor decisions and a mess of a strategy in the Monaco Grand Prix. Having started on pole and led the early portions of the race, Leclerc dropped to 4th as a result of changing from wets to intermediates when he could have stayed out longer and gone straight to slicks, and then being detained behind teammate Carlos Sainz in the pits when he made his second stop for slicks. The tire management blunder that may have prevented Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc from scoring what would have been his first ever win in his hometown became the focus of media attention. Leclerc was understandably enraged, and some uncensored footage of his onboard microphone was recently published. But before going further into these details, let's take a look at some background. After an hour of rain delay, Charles Leclerc led from pole position with a comfortable enough lead that it appeared early on that he would not only finish, but also win his first Monaco GP. Nevertheless, when it came to tire strategy, Ferrari was unable to make a decision, which ended up being a costly mistake because the wet track eventually dried out. While Perez's Red Bull team was giving its drivers instructions to pit for intermediate tires, Ferrari was leaving Leclerc and his teammate Carlos Sainz on wets for an excessive amount of time. After that, instructions were given to Leclerc to make a pit stop on intermediate tires 2 laps after Red Bull. After Leclerc switched to intermediate tires, he moved up to the second position behind Perez. However, Ferrari chose to let Sainz complete one more lap on wet tires before making the snap decision to bring him into the pit lane, bypass the intermediate tires, and immediately switch to slicks. Not only that, but Ferrari also sent the instruction to Leclerc to change to slick tires just 1 lap after they had switched to intermediate tires, which caused both Ferrari drivers to be double stacked in the pits. Due to Ferrari's insistence that Leclerc make 2 pit stops in such a short period of time, the Italian driver dropped to 4th place, behind Perez, his teammate Carlos Sainz, and Max Verstappen of Red Bull. Therefore, after holding a secure lead for the majority of the beginning of the race, Leclerc found himself in 4th place, which is where he would remain until the race was over. In point of fact, the leading 4 positions did not move from that point on as a direct result of Monaco's unusually severe overtaking challenges. To make matters even worse, as Leclerc was making his pit stop, he heard the team tell him over the microphone that they had changed their minds and that he should remain on the track instead, but it was too late. It appeared as though Ferrari was in a panic, which led to the indecision that resulted in Leclerc falling all the way back to 4th place. Following the race, Leclerc spoke with Natalie Pinkman from Sky TV. "Let down is not the right phrase. Some mistakes are inevitable, but there have been far too many mistakes today as a whole. When conditions are like that, you have to put some of your faith in what the team can see. I've been asked questions about whether I wanted to switch from medium wet to the slicks, and I've responded yes. However, I don't understand what made us alter our mind and run on the intermediates later on in the race. Because of the undercut, I had to fall in behind Carlos. To put it another way, there have been a lot of mistakes, and we simply cannot afford to continue making them. It's challenging, just like it was the previous years here, so I'm growing used to going back to my house feeling let down." He continued, further saying that, "My last message wasn't clear because I was told to remain out. But I was already in the pit lane, and that's where I just let it all out on the radio and yelled because I knew I was done." No matter how objectively we attempt to cover the Formula One season, it is impossible not to feel at least a little bit sorry for Leclerc. He started off the race in his hometown with an excellent performance that gave him a comfortable lead, but then his team's indecision and panic decision-making put him in 4th place on a track that is famous for its lack of opportunities for overtaking other cars. He qualified in 1st place, and he started off the race in his hometown with an excellent performance that gave him a comfortable lead. The tale of the 2022 Monaco Grand Prix was one of disappointment for Charles Leclerc, but Sergio Perez's performance, in which he was able to hold off Carlos Sainz in the final stages of the race, is deserving of all of the accolades that is being given to him. It is very clear that Ferrari made the mistake of attempting to overcut when they should have undercut. The player who was transitioning to slicks made the mistake of trying the undercut when the overcut would have been more effective. They brought their drivers in too late for intermediate tires, and they brought them in too early for slicks. Charles Leclerc said he still believes in his Ferrari squad, despite finishing second in the British Grand Prix due to a dubious tactical decision. However, when asked how troubling it was for his aspirations of winning the championship, given the team keeps making blunders, he responded by saying, "It's not good. I feel like I'm proving with every race that it's not having too much of an impact on me, and I have to express that. However, I would prefer to not have to deal with these issues." His teammate, Carlos Sainz, a popular, personable, smart, and top-drawer driver, was able to take a long-overdue first victory thanks to Leclerc's accident at Silverstone. Sainz's victory was a long-overdue maiden victory. The rapport between Leclerc and Sainz is genuine, and Leclerc, the top driver for Ferrari, commented that it was an important point that Sainz had finally broken his duck after 150 attempts. "As much as I am disappointed on my side," Leclerc said, "I don't think this should be a headline on what is an amazing first victory for Carlos. It's like a wish come to life. When you're a kid, you always have dreams about situations like these, especially if they involve a Ferrari. It's his day, he ought to have fun, and I can only hope that the next time around it will be mine." It was a noble response that spoke a lot, not only about the kind of man that Leclerc is, but also about the overall sense of team spirit that exists at Ferrari. But as the events of the British Grand Prix played out, and Ferrari made a series of decisions that would have been unexpected, perhaps even unimaginable, if their competitors Red Bull had been in the same position, many people began to question whether or not Ferrari had their priorities in the correct order. There is no way that it cannot be a headline after what happened at Silverstone, where they made a series of calls that caused more than one observer to comment that it looked like they were actively trying to lose Leclerc the race and the championship. Leclerc may not want Ferrari's decision-making to be a headline, but there is no way that it cannot be after what happened at Silverstone. At this point, one needs to go back a little bit and think back on the circumstances surrounding the race. Leclerc stated that he needed a great weekend and a string of 4 solid performances to take him and Ferrari into the summer break. He arrived at Silverstone last week and made this statement. He was referring to a difficult stretch for him in recent competitions that had resulted in a 49-point deficit to Verstappen after only 6 additional Grand Prix races, after having had a lead of 43 points over Verstappen after the first 3 races of the season. This included 2 engine failures while leading the race in Spain and Azerbaijan, a strategy foul-up that turned a win into 4th place in Monaco, a start from the back of the grid in Canada as a result of a penalty for using too many engines already, and a spin from Leclerc at Imola that dropped him from 3rd to 6th place. What do you anticipate from Ferrari about the position of Leclerc? Will Ferrari ever figure out how to overcome their terrible streak of strategies? Tell us what you think in the comments section below. And until next time, stay safe on the road, and see you then. Bye bye.